Hi, kia ora, and welcome to Creative Connections, where we have beautiful, inspiring conversations with artists living in Aoteaora, New Zealand. I'm your host, Mandy Jakic. In this episode, I am speaking with Kaye McGarva. Kaye is a professional artist herself and the owner-director of Muse Gallery. Muse Gallery is in Havelock North in the Bay of Plenty, Aoteaora, New Zealand, and was founded by Kaye in 2017. This is a conversation I'm sure many artists will be intrigued to hear. Kaye shares how and why she started Muse Gallery 9 years ago, and the challenges of starting a gallery with no former experience in this area, and how she grew the gallery from the ground up. We explore how Muse Gallery organises their yearly exhibition program, the current stable of artists at Muse, how and why they were selected, and how connecting with more experienced, established artists at the beginning helped the gallery to build their good reputation. Kaye gives some super helpful tips to artists when approaching galleries, the do's and don'ts, her preferred ways for artists to connect and share their work, how and why they choose the artist to join the gallery, what feedback or advice they may pass on to artists approaching them, and what they look for in an artist beyond their work. We talk about how the gallery deals with artists not selling work, how she feels about artists experimenting and changing styles, gallery commissions and pricing work. We also talk about her view on artists selling work themselves, artist contracts, how the gallery elevates their artists and communicates the ideas behind their work. Kaye explains what type of gallery she sees Muse Gallery as, what it offers as a gallery, ways they make the gallery feel accessible, and how the gallery operates, and where this gallery fits in the New Zealand gallery landscape. And so much more. This is a fascinating chat, which I know you will benefit from listening to. Enjoy. Kia ora, Kaye.
Kia ora.
Lovely to see you.
Oh, lovely to see you, Mandy. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you very much for joining us on Creative Connections. It's great to have you here. Now, we met, I think, at a Black Door Gallery opening of one of your joint shows, I think it was.
Yes, a joint show with Ben Young last year in September.
Yeah. So we have met before briefly, which was nice to make that initial connection. But It's lovely to see you. You're sitting in front of one of your gorgeous works, which is so stunning. I love it. Yeah, it's perfect. So you are here to talk about Muse Art Gallery, which is a beautiful art gallery in Havelock North. And this is the beginning of a little bit of a sub-series where I'm talking to gallerists or curators from galleries around New Zealand. So I think it's going to be really fascinating for our listeners to hear from different galleries and hear, potentially different perspectives and different ways of working, but also, for gallerists to be able to give artists some really good tips on how to connect with galleries and what is good for you from your perspective. So I'm really looking forward to having a chat. To start with, could you please just tell us a little bit about yourself, Kaye, and then also how you got started running Muse Gallery?
Okay. Well, I was born and grew up in Hastings. And when I was at school, I was sort of like all geared up to do art as my main subject. So at high school, I had done what they call fine art prelim. And then I applied for art school and I'd always done really well. So I was really sort of shocked really when I didn't get accepted. And that kind of set me back a wee bit. I ended up going to university anyway, and I did a art history and a history degree, as you do if you don't really know what you're going to do. And then I'd always loved cooking, and then and I'd worked in restaurants before, so I started traveling after I finished, and I ended up working in restaurants and not pursuing anything else. So I kind of put art to one side, and I think I used my creativity as a pastry chef. And so I did really well. We ended up owning a bakery business. I used to Pandora, which was based in Auckland and Parnell originally, and then it grew. And then when we sold that business, which was 2001, then I was a bit older, and it was like an opportunity to start thinking about what else I wanted to do. So I started doing art classes again. And then a wee bit later, we moved back to Hawke's Bay. That's where my family still were. After, I think my mother really wanted me to go pursue learning art again. And it wasn't until she actually passed away that I ended up sort of having a bit of a midlife crisis, and then signing up, and EIT, the Eastern Institute of Technology, was sort of like running courses then that I could apply to, and as part of it, do like an introductory art course. So that got me started, and then I just really loved that environment, and it was, so I ended up doing a Bachelor of Visual Art and Design there. So it was formal training. That was when I was 50.
Oh, wow. Good on you for getting back there. It's so lovely that you actually managed to do it in the end.
Well, yeah, my husband had actually decided to do a winemaking course at EIT as well. So he and I were both studying at EIT, and our daughters were doing NCEA. After I finished EIT, I was offered an opportunity to have an exhibition at Tennyson Gallery. Well, that's what it's called now. It was called A&E Gallery then, in Napier. And so I was super excited, thinking, this is it. Done my course. I'm having an exhibition. And then, like after I finished, that was it. It was just sort of like, there was kind of nothing. And I wasn't quite sure what to do with that. There really didn't seem to be many opportunities for artists in smaller areas outside big cities. And while there were other galleries in Napier, I'd kind of already sort of shown there. And I was living in Havelock. Well, I am living in Havelock North, and there weren't any galleries there. So I kind of thought, if I'm having this issue, other people are. And there had been some good galleries in Havelock North that had all closed down. So I spoke with the developer who's just putting a new hotel in, and with retail space, and they were looking for tenants. So we were very lucky that we've got this really gorgeous space, and we're able to set it up exactly the way we wanted.
And that's so good.
I knew absolutely nothing at the start. Relied heavily on other people and advice, and just made lots of mistakes at the beginning. So now it's 9 years coming up this December since we sort of took it on, and we feel like we've really built something up that's quite special.
Yeah, you really have. Muse Gallery has got such a great reputation, and you've got some beautiful artists in your stable of artists. I just think that's such a huge achievement to take on something that you don't know very much about, that you're passionate about, and then to make it happen. I mean, it must have been quite scary at the beginning.
Well, I mean, I look back at some of the things I did, and I sort of like, there's no manual on how to run an art gallery, and unless you've worked in one before, but I really didn't have that time. So I just do what I usually do and just sort of get started and see what happens. And and I'm the kind of person who's always interested in constantly improving. I'm not a perfectionist, so I don't start out at the beginning as if everything needs to be perfect. So, it's an opportunity to sort of, I guess, just learn. We started out, we had lots of abstract art because that's kind of what I thought, well, that's what I like. But I really soon found out that it's really, we're in a very conservative community here, and abstract art isn't necessarily everyone's familiar or comfortable with it. So we sort of learnt that we needed to have a really broad range of different artists and different styles, and which has been fantastic. So we have a lot more realistic works, figurative works, beautiful landscapes. We've learned from talking to people what it is they want, and we've maintained like the sort of like at the root of everything, that when we decide on what kind of art we're showing or what kind of artist, it's always with that in mind, that partly it's about what market want, or what we think the market wants, but it's also it has to be sort of like artists themselves.
Now, you did mention a few weeks ago to me that you are considering or, thinking about putting Muse Gallery on the market. So can you tell us about that and what your plans are for that?
Sure. Well, I think, like I say, it's been almost 9 years since we started the business. I turned 65 earlier this year, and I think I kind of thought I can't keep doing what I'm doing forever. But as an artist myself, I've also got work in a gallery in Auckland, and there's an opportunity to be exhibiting down on the South Island as well. So I kind of feel like I'd like to pursue those opportunities a bit more, and I don't really have that opportunity at the moment with the amount of time I put into running this business. So it's a case of finding someone who can sort of, take things on, take the responsibility on, and we'd like to see things stay pretty much as they are. It's a very successful formula. It's really well respected in our community. Commercially, it's very successful. So it's just a case of finding the right person. So we're going to be putting out our feelers out there for, I guess, expressions of interest, people who think that they might like a change in their career, or people who have been thinking about a business. Really, essentially, the biggest skill you need to have, or the most important skill, is being a good communicator.
Yeah.
And I think if you're a good communicator and you're, we've got great systems, everything else sort of falls into place because we've got great staff. The way things work is very successful, so we wouldn't change it.
Yeah, and it would be an incredible opportunity for somebody. Oh my gosh, how amazing. And would you be doing some sort of form of training in that sort of transition of sales?
Yeah, I guess we would see the idea that they would be buying into the business. I think that's how we want to approach it, and that there would be sort of staged handover, so that it was making sure it was the right person, making sure that they understood what was going on and stuff. But most importantly, that as far as the public were concerned, that it would be, same as same, that everything would they wouldn't notice too much.
Yeah, which is great. That's perfect. And you're so right. Somebody who can connect really positively with people and communicate really well is number one, and everything else kind of follows on from
Yeah.
that. I'm sure you'll find the right person at some stage, and what a fantastic opportunity for somebody. You've done all the learning, you've done all the hard stuff, really, haven't you? Which is that's the great thing about taking on a business that has been going for 9 years. That you've done all the learning and refined everything, so it's actually a perfect time to pick up a business. Yeah. So you are a very busy woman. You're a professional artist as well as a gallery owner, curator, director.
Yeah.
So how do you actually manage your week, and what does a typical week look like for you?
Well, at different times of the year, it's different. Like in the middle of summer, I probably am stretched the most because that's the best time to be in my studio, and also when I really, really want to be in the gallery because we're so busy. So on those days, I work really long days. I come in, I go into my studio first thing in the morning. And then after I've been in my studio for maybe a couple of hours, setting up what I need to do, I'll call into the gallery, sort of discuss with the staff what's going on. There's usually discussions to be had because we're always scheduling exhibitions. So there's always an opportunity to sort of be making sure that catalogues are up to date, that, all the photography has been done, as well as following up leads of clients who've been in. They might want art taken to their house so they can see what it looks like and at their place. So those kinds of things happen much more over summer. And then I'll go back to my studio in the afternoon, and I'll probably work through till about sort of 6:00 and then head home. Very occasionally, I'll go back out again in the evening to my studio. I'm really lucky I've got this fabulous studio, which is about 5 minutes from home and about 5 minutes from the gallery, so that I can do this sort of circuit. So having my studio so close means that I've got that opportunity to sort of nip in and out, and so that makes it much easier to work. At one point, I had my studio about half an hour away, and that was sort of a big commitment.
Yeah, that's adding a lot more hours to your day.
Yeah. Once you put your overalls on and you've got paint all through your fingernails and on your face and your glasses, it's not so easy just to walk into the gallery and have a conversation with someone.
Yes, exactly.
You were asking that question about what does a typical day look like, and I sort of talked about summer where I do a bit of both. Over winter, when we're much slower, Philippa, who works here she manages the gallery when I'm not here. She's away. That becomes my sole focus, is running the gallery. So I do a lot more planning at over winter. So we organise all the exhibitions for next year are mostly plotted over this time, sort of fine tuning and much more communication with artists. So there's a lot of behind the scenes work, which is quite good to do. So this is when I'm fully focused on the gallery, as opposed to when I'm flitting in and out during my studio kind of headspace.
Yeah, well, that's quite good that you have that sort of winter time to, knowing that that's coming up, and that's a time for you to kind of knuckle down and plan ahead. And so how do you actually approach your exhibition program when it comes to sort of joint shows or group shows or solo shows? How do you work that out?
Well, recently we have a lot more joint shows, and that's because we have just recently built an extra wall. So now we have essentially 2 exhibition spaces. And it's an opportunity to showcase, have like 2 little mini exhibitions, or the exhibition that we've got currently that I'm sitting here looking at. We've got Richard Adams, who's a painter, who we have paired with Richard Brimmer, who's a photographer. So we've actually curated this show, so worked with the photographer and the painter so that they liaised with each other and have combined, like Richard Brimmer has sent his photos to Richard Adams, who has done interpretations of them. And being abstract art, it's quite good, I think, for people who don't quite understand abstract art to see that quite a lot of the time it's based in reality. So there are sort of things that it's inspired by. And then so we've positioned the photos and the paintings side by side so it makes those connections obvious. So that one has been quite a different way to curate than we normally do, and it's been so successful that people who come in to see the show, when you point out how the works have come about, are like really, really engaged with that.
I can imagine. I love that idea. And what have you called that show?
We've called it Coast. Richard Brimmer lives in Aoteaora, which is coastal settlement in Hawke's Bay. He's a local, and it's a bit of a love letter to Aoteaora. It's got landscapes. It's got some of the people and some of the kind of typical or not so typical homes that people live in. There's a photo which Richard's got of somebody who's disassembled a big, huge motorbike in their kitchen, and all the paraphernalia around that, and lots of little touches that are kind of Kiwiana, but they're very genuine and authentic. So.
Yeah. I'm interested to know how Richard Adams responded to those kind of photographs with his paintings.
Well, there's shapes and colours. For example, Richard Brimmer did a photo of a caravan with a little brown awning and all these people sitting around outside. So Richard Adams has used some of the shapes from the awning, the colours and textures, and so we've got those 2 side by side. And that's like a blocks of colour. So it's a very abstract one. But then he's also got Richard Brimmer sent a photograph, which is a purple sky, and over the water, it's a very still evening. It's a very beautiful photo. And he sent that to Richard Adams, who has just done a really beautiful rendition of it, just very stippled and just all very blended. And so he's kind of used the colours and where the light comes from. But that's a very sort of very quiet and quite a direct, obviously a seascape kind of action. So, yeah.
How beautiful. Well, we didn't actually finish talking about your sort of overview of exhibitions through the year. So when you're planning, how do you sort of do that calendar of exhibitions, basically? How are you thinking about that?
Okay, well, that's quite interesting. That's kind of, I've learned quite a lot over the years. February is a really bad time to have an exhibition locally anyway, because I think there's certain times of the year that we have very, very poor sales. And I think February is particularly difficult because people are facing all the credit card bills from Christmas, their holidays, and they've got all the new expenses with school terms starting. And then in February there's tax to pay. So there's sort of like not so much disposable income. So I think that is a tricky time to have an exhibition. So we tend to start the year in January with like a relatively inexpensive print type show. So just framed prints. February is tricky, and we sort of like, I don't think we've found a really good solution to February.
I think the idea of them just having a sort of a more affordable range, that sounds smart.
Oh yes, although we do that in January, and actually, I mean, like, we end the year with the affordable art show, so that's sort of like end of November, beginning of December. That's our most popular show, and that's an opportunity where we have about 50 artists and about I don't know 100 or more artworks that we divide the space up into different sections. So we've got one area of the gallery will be under 1,500, another will be under 1,000, and then the biggest area is under $500. So so that people, it's all very clear to people what the price point is, and they queue up outside for hours before the gallery opens.
Really?
And it's just this really fun exhibition that the idea is that well-priced art and people can have something meaningful for Christmas, supports the artists, and meaningful gift for someone.
That's perfect. And it's good, I guess, that, you know, the community and even further afield are expecting that show at the end of the year, you know, to have that sort of continuity must be good.
It's great. And it's also an opportunity, I think, you know, when you're not quite sure if you're looking at artists and you know that they're probably not entirely your market, but you would like to give someone a chance. It might be that they're an emerging artist, that they're even high school students, or artists who are not professional, they're sort of amateur artists. That's an opportunity for us to include their work in a much bigger show. And I guess just sort of see how people respond to it.
Yeah, like a little test. Little trial. Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. So you do have a wonderful group of artists as part of your gallery. I know quite a few of them. And I've actually spoken to quite a lot of your artists on the podcast, which is really nice. So can you describe, sort of give us an overview of your stable of artists?
We have some quite established artists, like, for example, Neil Palmer. When we opened the gallery almost 9 years ago, Neil was our first outside artist, you know, outside of the region. And it's been fantastic having his support. So particularly when we didn't really know very much, he was great for helping suggest other artists we should approach. So we have some, I guess, top tier artists, if you like. And then we have a mid-range. So I guess we have different price points, different styles. I think that sort of the mix we have at the moment is pretty good. Our emphasis really is on local artists if we can, like find particularly landscape artists tend to be local. Every artist that we have is someone who we believe very strongly in their authenticity and their approach. So I think even though they've all got very different styles, I think I personally love every piece of art that we have in the gallery. So a lot of people come in and they'll go, wow, I really like the art you have. And I think it's because that it all has sort of, I guess, my taste at this point. It's cohesive, that everything here means something.
Yeah. And they all work together.
They all work together, yeah. But it's a really interesting cross-section. We try and have as many local artists, but when we first started, it was very difficult to get local artists because, as you're probably aware, you can't, if you show your work in one gallery, you won't be able to show it in another local gallery. So some of the artists who we would really have loved to have had, they either had contracts with very big galleries and weren't able to show outside of Auckland or, wherever they were, or they were already showing in a gallery in Hawke's Bay. So we had to sort of start by building that up, and so that's something that's grown over time.
Yeah, I can imagine that could be an issue. And did you find, just kind of going back to when you started your gallery and getting Neil along, I mean, did you find as a new gallery and as a person who hadn't had a gallery before, was it hard to kind of establish your reputation and get taken seriously in those early days?
Well, yes, but probably for very good reason, because I didn't know what I was doing. But you learn, and you learn pretty quickly. And I think, and like Neil was very helpful, and Kathy Carter. So the more experienced artists, they were really helpful in sort of steering the gallery in a certain way. And yeah, I think we've been really lucky with the artists that we've had, that they've been really supportive. I don't think many artists have sort of like quit on us. Necessarily it's been a case of sometimes artists sort of grow out of what we're doing, or we move on. So there's sort of like some kind of attrition, but yeah.
Have you ever sort of felt over time that maybe this artist isn't the right fit and you've had to let people go?
Yes, occasionally. But all of those seem to be like, each circumstance seems quite different. So yeah, I mean, those can be quite challenging to manage, but it very rarely happens. So I at most point, for the most part, it's really us just building our relationship with artists. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's a case of we've had exhibitions, and even though we really love their work, it's just there isn't very much interest from the public. And that sort of like over time, we'll probably have less exhibitions, if we can't find a way to engage the public. So, yeah. I think,
which is fair enough. And that's a business decision, isn't it, really? I mean, you have to look at it like that sometimes, which must be quite hard when you're wanting to support the artist and to support your people, but sometimes you just have to make that kind of decision.
It doesn't happen very often. There are sort of 12 months in the year, and if you take out kind of Christmas and various times, there's really only room for sort of like 11 exhibitions. We possibly show most of our artists every second year or every year and a half. There are a couple of artists who are local and extremely popular, and a couple of those we've shown every year. But the way we've sort of managed the stable growing is to have joint exhibitions. So most of the exhibitions this year are at least 2 artists. We've got an exhibition in October and November with 2 of our more popular artists. So there's Emma Herkus and Kate McKenzie. So those 2 artists have both got solo shows. But the way we have managed it is to show 2 artists at the same time.
That's a good idea. Yeah, brilliant. And we talked earlier before we started recording about artists approaching galleries, and I feel like having these conversations with gallerists is a great way for us artists to kind of get different perspectives from different galleries about how to approach a gallery. It'd be really interesting to know from you, Kaye, what you like when artists approach you. What is it that you're looking for?
Okay, well, I think that's a fantastic question, and I wish I knew when I was approaching artists. What we like is for artists to do their research beforehand, so that before they approach the gallery, they've sort of maybe stalked them on Instagram, checked out their website, and just had a look through who else is showing, and thought about whether or not their work is going to be something that would work or is appropriate. But when you come into the gallery, sometimes people bring work in with them, which is a bit difficult because it's it's not something that you can just stop what you're doing and give them the attention that they need to look at it. We usually give them a business card and just say, can you please send us an email where you tell us a little bit about yourself and show us some examples of your work. And then we can make a time to come in and see us. So we always promise to respond to emails, so that, I think it's really disheartening otherwise for an artist not to hear anything back. But I'm not a big fan of somebody bringing their phone and then spending 5 minutes trying to find their work on the phone, because I can't really see it anyway, and I really need to be thinking, seeing it on a computer screen is good. So I think that's probably the first thing, is do some research, approach the gallery through an email in the first instance if you can, make a time to come in and see them in person, and then they're expecting it, so they're not sort of caught off guard.
Yeah.
And do that research first, so that you already know that your work would fit into that kind of gallery.
And when you say fit into, do you mean that artists should be looking to see if there's work that's quite similar to the work that they're doing, and in that case it might not be the best fit, or there's other work that is kind of the same genre as theirs, or what do you think artists should be looking at when they do that research of your gallery?
We get a lot of amateur artists, I suppose, approach us, and it is a case of it's just their work is not at that standard that we would expect in the kind of gallery that we have. So, for example, we might suggest to them, look, this would be really good for this kind of gallery. You might want to approach that. So, I mean, we sort of have quite a professional, high standard here. So, I think that sort of level of professionalism of the gallery is an important factor as well. So it is a tricky one. I guess there's a place for everything, and we sort of offer quite a broad range, but I think you still need to have a certain level of professionalism.
Yeah. Well, you need to have your standards as a business, obviously. And for people, if you're looking at an email and looking at somebody's work and you don't really like it, how do you break that to the artist? And do you come up with suggestions or anything like that, or feedback?
Yeah, I mean, all art is subjective. But I guess I see a lot of art, and I have a really quite broad, I guess, understanding. So it's very, very rarely do I see art that I don't like, and if I don't like it, it is because it is either derivative or poorly executed. So I might suggest that they try another gallery, or just suggest that they start by using, setting up an Instagram account and sort of like use that as a way to sort of, I guess, fine tune their work. They'll get feedback from people. So I think sometimes if I think the work is a bit touristy, so like it seems like it's designed because somebody thinks it's a good thing to do. I mean, like if it's a European person who brings in, a Pākehā person brings in like a little tiki or, Māori design that's cutely framed, and they would like us to sell it. That isn't the kind of stuff that we would be interested in selling, but there might be more touristy galleries that be of interest. But I mean, it's quite a broad range, I guess, of people who approach us.
Yeah, I can imagine. And do you have a set number of artists that works best for you, or are you quite sort of fluid?
Well, I kind of feel like the amount that we've got now is about perfect. So once we've been established for as long as we have, it's difficult. So really, it has to be an artist who's really doing something special or out of the ordinary to for us to make room for them, because that means sort of, shifting other things around. But, we use our affordable art show at the end of the year as a way to trial different artists. And
yeah, I love that idea. That's great. And do you ever find artists yourself and sort of notice artists through Instagram or whatever and think would like to have them as part of our gallery, and you approach them?
Yeah, I'm doing that less and less because I kind of feel like we have quite a few artists already. Having said that, then, what will happen is I'll look at something and someone on Instagram and think, oh, that's really interesting. And then I'll get messages from other people, and there'll be like maybe 2 or 3 other people all mention the same artist. And then you go, oh, okay, that's, I need to go back there and take another look and maybe follow up. So, yeah. But yeah, I think the longer you're in business, you're not looking out so much for the new ones. So, and you do need to keep that fresh blood coming through. So, yeah, I mean, it is a tricky one.
Yeah, it's a tricky balance, I imagine. And when you choose to represent an artist, obviously a lot of it comes down to their work and the standard of their work and that kind of thing. But are there other factors like how authentic they are or how well they communicate? Does that come up as well for you?
Definitely the authentic. Like, we very rarely take on an artist without doing a studio visit. And going and talking to them about their practice and finding out what their motivation is. We've been doing a series called my Muse, which we do these blogs, which artists just are telling us where they get their inspiration from and things like that. And I think it's really, to me, it's really interesting anyway.
And really interesting. Yeah, I enjoyed reading it. It's great.
Yeah, great. And so it's just a way to, I guess, also help educate the public, because as a gallery, while we're representing artists, we're also trying to sell their work, and the best way we can sell their work is through educating the public as well. So I think I was sort of talking about when I set the gallery up all those years ago, when as an artist I felt like there weren't very many opportunities for artists in smaller communities before we set this gallery up. And I also had friends who were, able to afford to purchase really good art, but they didn't know how to approach it either. So there was sort of like a mismatch between, we've got wonderful artists in Hawke's Bay who had nowhere to show their work, and then we've got people who would easily have benefited and could have afforded to support the artists who weren't connected to them. So I think that's the nice thing that having the gallery here is that we're able to, it's a meeting of the markets. So it's who need to, need to sell their work or need to have their work seen, and people who need to acquire work. So
that's right. Yeah. And I love that way of thinking of using other approaches, not just having a gallery and showing the work, but, educating people about the artist and having different platforms where people can kind of learn and watch and follow, and then, come in and potentially buy. It's like a sort of, it's a bit of a process, isn't it, really?
Yeah, no, that's right. And we always make sure when we have openings that artists are here for the opening. And there's always an artist talk. And we sort of, encourage that kind of, I guess, demystifying the whole thing with, between, the artist and the public. So
when people are thinking about approaching galleries, there's obviously different types of galleries. Could you talk to us a little bit about the different types and where Muse Gallery fits?
Sure. So we are a little bit unusual in that we're like a dealer gallery who have exhibitions every month or every 3 weeks at the moment. And we also have like cash and carry aspect to the gallery. So there's the stock room out the back that people can walk through. There's at the front of the gallery, there is a sort of object space, and we've got prints and things like that. So this gallery has got quite a different kind of model, but there are some galleries which don't have any exhibitions. They are, there's just, you walk in and it's a space with art completely over the walls, and that's just all cash and carry. And then there are galleries like the big players like Langsford, which are dealer galleries, so that you walk in there and it's only an exhibition space. And so I think a lot of people feel a little bit intimidated walking into galleries that are just exhibition spaces, because I think you might feel like, oh, I couldn't afford to buy the work in here, so maybe I shouldn't be allowed in, or maybe I have to pay to come in, or something like that. But what we really want to do is make art accessible. So the idea is that the way we've set it up is so that people feel like they can walk into the gallery and that there's always going to be something that they feel like they can look at that's within their price range or within their means.
But then you've always got a show on, an exhibition.
That's right, because as an artist myself, I feel it's really important that you give artists an opportunity to exhibit their work. So when you exhibit artists, they create that work just for that exhibition, 90% of the time. And so that is all new work, and that's what drives artists. Professional artists need to have exhibitions that they are working towards, and this is where they develop their body of ideas. Where if your gallery is just like a space full of art from a number of different artists, but there's no cohesion there or whatever, then it's a different experience. You'd probably feel very comfortable walking into that space as well. So I think there's sort of like that balance, but we're a small town and Havelock North's a small village, so it's a case of we have to be a little bit of everything, I think. And we really like the fact that we've got an accessible stock room out the back that people can slide these racks open and the work's accessible there. And that means that artists get sales all through the year rather than just when they're having an exhibition. So, I think as an artist, having your work in a gallery that you're only able to exhibit in once a year or every 2 years, and you're not able to show your work in other galleries throughout the country because of your contractual relationship with them, then sometimes that can, work against an artist. So, I think we feel like this size and operation, the way we manage it, is successful for our community. It works really well.
Yeah, I love that. And it feels like it's accessible for your audience and your community, but also, works really well for the artists, which is good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they are our community. I mean,
part of your community. And then you mentioned, getting your artists to do artist talks, which can be terrifying for some artists, I imagine. What other things do you expect from your artists in terms of professionalism and communication?
Well, we have an artist agreement which we send artists, which just sort of lay out our expectations. And one of the key things is because a lot of artists sell their own work, which as an artist I am so totally think it's fantastic. You can sell your own artwork. I think what happens is if an artist is selling their artwork at a price different to what a gallery is selling them, then I think that's an issue. So we sort of make it really clear that if you're selling your own work, it has to be at the same price that you sell through the gallery. Also, that if clients of the gallery decide to approach the artist directly, that they then just get redirected back to the gallery to handle things, because it's not fair to cut the gallery out. Yeah, because otherwise, if galleries don't survive, then the artists don't either. It's sort of, it's like an ecosystem, really, that everyone needs to do their part. And then the other thing is, if you're showing your work somewhere else, we like to have artists who are exclusive to Hawke's Bay, so we have exclusive their work in Hawke's Bay. If they are wanting to show at another local gallery, that they just at least talk to us about it first, and then we can sort of decide whether we are happy with that or if we want to sort of interfere or intervene in some way.
Yeah. And that communication and sort of honesty and sort of, being transparent would be very important, I imagine.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah. So what happens if an artist, I mean, you kind of touched on it earlier, but what happens if an artist is not selling work very well, but you still want to hold on to them because you believe in them? What advice do you give, or, what can happen in that instance apart from actually getting rid of the artist?
Well, we would be giving feedback from what we discuss with clients. In fact, we have had that situation relatively recently, and we absolutely loved the work, but the feedback we were getting was that maybe it was a little bit too much like somebody else's work. And then we went back to the artist with that conversation and just sort of said, look, this is where we're at. And he sort of then opened up this whole new dialogue and gave us different insights and different ways of talking about his work that then was fantastic, because then our conversations with clients, we were able to steer them away from that, or, that conclusion anyway. And I guess emphasize the other aspects to the artist's work that we were more sort of important. So, yeah, I mean, it's case by case, and there is nothing wrong with things not selling at an exhibition. There will be those times, and sometimes it's external factors to do with the market.
That's right.
But
yeah.
If we feel like that, we feel like the work's just not right for our market and that we totally misjudged it, then we will simply, talk to the artist, perhaps give some or all of the work back, and and reassess. But I mean, we very rarely have that situation, because most of the time the artists that we've had them for a while, and we are 100% behind them.
Yeah. And how do you actually support an artist's career growth beyond exhibiting work in the gallery?
Well, we like to encourage them to enter into competitions. I know some of the art competitions have changed a bit recently, with, like the Wallace no longer around, and some of the ones like the Molly Morpeth Canada that is now slightly different. So all of the, those things do change, but I think it's a really good thing for artists to put their work into competitions like that.
Why do you think it's a good thing?
Because I think if it's in a selected show, and an artist is a finalist in one of those big shows, then it's introducing their work to a broader audience. I think it's a way for the general public to sort of it's a mark of achievement. You can say, I'm a finalist in the National Contemporary Art Awards, and I think these are things that validate the artist. So I think it's just part of that process, I suppose. And I mean, I think our role as a gallery, why an artist would have a gallery, is that our role is to elevate the artist. I think that we need to show them in the best possible light, and we set the gallery up so that the walls are beautifully painted, that the lighting's fantastic, that all the publicity that we do surrounding the artist, whether it's through social media or in-house, whatever we do, that all of those things elevate the artist.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you encourage artists to experiment with new ideas? And how do you feel if you've got an artist who sells their work really well, and then they make a few changes, and you can see a shift with the audience. I mean, that must be another interesting balance for you.
Oh yeah, no, totally. Yes, you're right. These are all the tricky questions. We do have an artist who pretty much her whole approach is always evolving, and it is hard sometimes for her market to always be behind her if they don't particularly like the new direction. But then that is the nature of that artist. Other artists, most of them are really loath to change their style because they feel that there's still plenty there for them to explore, and they feel comfortable in that role. But some artists, like we were just talking about Richard Adams, has got two different styles. He's got more of a colour block abstract style as well as that more graduated colour. And he shifts between them. So I guess it's a case of, depending on the artist. I have nothing against it as an artist myself. I am all for it. But, if you don't take the public with you, then, if you're used to having good sales, you just have to wait that one out, wait for everyone to that point.
It is tricky though, isn't it? I mean, so many artists have said it in the podcast where maybe they're getting tired of a certain range, or, certain series or a certain style, and they want to try different things. And there are some artists who do lots of different things, and sometimes galleries take on some ranges from an artist, and then another gallery will take on another range from the same artist, which is interesting as well. How do you approach, or how do you feel about artists who've got quite a lot of different things going?
Well, as long as they're authentic, like where are these ideas coming from in the first place? Sometimes can see that something that they do is so fabulous, and you just think, oh my God, it's so unique, it's so wonderful, I love this. And then they try and do other things, but the other things that they're doing, they aren't at that level of the competency, for example. So the other works that they're doing, they're different style, but they're not so good. So they probably just need to keep working on that to develop it more, When you do change your style, it's like starting from, from ground zero again in lots of ways. You're still working out what works and what doesn't work. And but you're an artist who's already at this level, and then you're starting a new style that needs developing. You probably need a few more years working on that style to get it to where that level is. But then it comes down to price point, because if you're expecting to sell at that price point, So, I mean, some artists use different names for different styles.
It is an interesting one, isn't it? Because there are definitely artists I've spoken to who want to challenge themselves to try new things, and they love to experiment, and they even potentially get bored with one type of work. But then it's balancing, and again, you're running a business, so you need to be showing work that can sell as well. That's a consideration, isn't it?
Well, it is, but if that artist new work, if they are experimenting and they haven't nailed it, I mean, like if the new stuff they're doing is absolutely sensational, then I don't think anyone really would have an issue with them.
That's right.
But new work that they're doing is, oh my God, what were you thinking?
Yeah, I get that. And also it's at the beginning of their sort of journey with that work. So I totally understand what you're saying, yeah.
How can you have two price points for the same artist,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
true.
I think that's probably what's difficult for galleries, because our job is to, like I say, elevate the artist and maintain their price point. That's how we work. Because if you buy a painting for, say, $5,000, and then by this particular artist, and then they are doing work which is experimental, and nobody is going to pay $5,000 for the kind of work that they are producing, that really they're at another stage. You can't then put that price down to make that 1,500 in the meantime, until you build up, because they've already established a price point over here.
What about if somebody wanted to do that, but they kept their original work with you at that price, just as an example, and then took their new work, more experimental work, which was going to be at a lower price, to another gallery, out of the area, or a design store or something like that? Would you be open to that, or could that work for an artist, do you think?
Yeah, that would be one way of doing it. I guess the other thing is to introduce the experimental work within your general practice. So say that you're having an exhibition and you've got putting in 12 pieces, and 10 of them are of your usual sort of style and what people and what your market expect. And then you have the 2 experimental pieces there that give us an opportunity to talk about your work side by side. What I was trying to say before is you really need to bring your audience along with you. So if you are changing your style, whether you've had enough of that and you want to do this now, if you want that same audience, if you want that same price point, you do need to take them along with you. So,
Yeah.
and I think that's perhaps one of our artists who loves experimenting and being very creative. I think that's been her approach, and for the most part, she generally is very, very successful at going through that rapid change. So, Kate McGarva also does the World of Wearable Arts. She's been the Supreme Award winner twice, and she's just the most fantastically creative person, but she can't sort of stay in one style. It's always developing. When we represent her, almost every conversation we have about Kate's work is, "Oh my God, is that what Kate's doing now?" And it's people are quite delighted. Some people go, "Oh, I'm not so sure," and other people go, "Wow, just absolutely love this." But Kate has a way of being more evolutionary. So she'll bring those ideas that she's got for her new work into her work gradually, and then she'll sort of move it so it becomes either more abstract and looser, or whether she starts tightening it up again, her brush strokes. Mm-hmm. So all of those things are different ways. I think she's probably the only artist we have who's sort of like so madly creative that everything they do is, every exhibition is just wait and see what you're going to get. It's going to be, quite
Which
different.
is kind of cool in a way. I mean, and I guess you can communicate that with your audience, and people get to know that about her work. And
Yeah.
I guess it could be that, certain work has a certain audience, and then some of her other work has another audience. Is that a bad thing, do you think?
No, not at all. As long as it doesn't create confusion.
Do you think it
I
needs to be recognisable as that artist's work?
think every artist has to find their own way to navigate it. And every gallery has to decide how they approach it, because it is definitely tricky. And if their new style is as good or even better, more interesting than what they were doing, I'd have absolutely no problem. But the couple of times that it has happened to us has been where maybe we weren't so sold on the newer style, you know.
Yeah. And I think it's all about what you said before, it comes down to communication. And if you've got that relationship with your artist, there's not going to be those surprises, or, you've already had the conversations.
How can you say no to someone's expressing their creativity, right? And experimenting. I mean, as an artist myself, it's a really big part of it. You don't necessarily have to always show it, show those works, but I mean, definitely do them to help your own practice. Like, have different styles within your practice that often they can invigorate what you're currently doing. So
exactly, yeah, that's such a good point. Yeah. So can we just go back quickly to pricing? We haven't talked about commissions, or the gallery commissions yet. So could you please explain to us what your commission is, how you work that out, and what you feel you actually contribute so that you can justify the commission?
Well, yeah, thank you very much for the question. It is something that surprises artists that we take a 45% commission, which includes GST. I think artists sometimes feel like they could make, that they don't need to pay quite so much, or what are they going to get for that? And I think it's a valid question. And I was talking before about how one of the things is that we ask artists, when it comes to pricing their work, that it's priced the same in a gallery as well as when they sell themselves. So obviously, if they're selling through the gallery, they have to pay us a commission. What we do for the artist is we present them in the best possible light. So we help with their marketing, collaborate with them on shows. For some artists, we do their framing. For all of our artists, we present these little artist cards, which we have sitting at the front counter, that people who come into the gallery can take a card and take it away. So our artists are all really well represented. Any new work that they bring into the gallery goes up on our website as part of recent arrivals. We do newsletters every 2 weeks telling people about the shows that we've got coming up and new work that's come into the gallery. We highlight, artist practices through our social media. But ultimately, what we're doing is helping an artist, giving the public confidence that what they're buying is like an authentic quality, a validated artwork, that everything here is sort of like very well constructed. No.
Yeah, and of a certain standard.
I guess that's it. That's really what we're trying to establish, is that we're presenting the artist as a professional.
Yeah.
So and everything that goes along with that, the quality of the work. If you're not showing your work in a gallery, it's quite difficult to work out what your price point is. So we work quite closely with artists in establishing that, and we like to build it up from a lesser amount and love to see that grow. So we work with the artists to bring their prices up. We get to the stage when we talk to the artists and say, look, we've had such good sales, we've had such good feedback. This is your 4th show now. Your work just keeps getting better and better. I think we can go up a little bit more. Sometimes you go, well, I really don't think the market at the moment will tolerate it going up too much more in price. People seem to be struggling. I think, being realistic, we need to keep your prices the same as last year. that kind of thing. So these are all discussions that take so many factors into consideration.
Yeah.
So I guess we help artists establish their worth.
Thank you, Kaye, for demystifying that. It's not always a discussion that galleries have that publicly, and it's actually really interesting to hear your approach on that, and it's good, I think, for people to know the hard work that galleries do for artists.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's a privilege, an honor. It's in no way glamorous. It's sort of like I thought it might have been when I started. No, it's just there is a lot of hard work, but it's so rewarding, and it's lovely to be able to sell the work of artists, which gives me a huge amount of pleasure, especially to be able to ring an artist up and say, oh, we've just sold, your latest work, or we've had that work for a while and it's just sold. Then they're just all so delighted. And then we often hang work in clients' homes, and just seeing the transformation that brings to their space and what that means to them. So, yeah, no, I mean, it's just a fabulous job.
I can imagine. And I love that sense of community that you build, with clients and your local community and with the artists and your staff. I think that's a beautiful thing about creating a great gallery, that you have that community and those really positive connections. And then you're really supporting people with their livelihood, which is amazing.
We, as a business, have a slightly different model in that our business really is the artists. They are our stakeholders, and without them, we don't have a business. So we need the artists, and the artists need us. And I think we do perform that service we've got the public need to make art accessible. We need to make art accessible. That's really what it is. So to support artists and to enrich the lives of those people who would like to have art in their homes.
Yeah, and also just the idea that you're making art accessible for people who may not be buying, but they're coming in and sort of immersing themselves in that kind of artistic environment, which might lead to them then getting inspired themselves to create. So I think even on the simplest terms, it's a great thing. Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you very, very much for talking to us today. I found this conversation so fascinating, and I'm sure my audience has as well. So thank you so much for being on Creative Connections.